Okay. Get that to her. You have that sent to her, Hillary?
I
Okay,
do.
she's texting me as well, and Mike is just running a minute late. But I think we get started. We have a couple parents on here right now, and we have some attendees on here as well, which is great. Excuse me. So I'd like to welcome everyone to our fourth and final installment of our Sofa Social series. This is where we hope to answer questions that you have as parents about this admissions process and everything about St. Joe's as you get ready for, excuse me, sorry, this application season, which is quickly approaching here on December 9th. I want to introduce our parent-to-parent panelists that we have on, and we have a few more joining us as well over the next couple of minutes, and we'll go over the process of this. If you remember, if you joined on any of our Sofa Socials, the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom screen is where you can communicate with us. So if you have a question for any of us, myself, Hillary, or Kim from the admissions office, but also our panelist of parents that will be on here tonight as well, just type your question in and we will forward it and direct it to the appropriate person to get these questions answered throughout the night and have some fun with this. This is always a fun one, parents giving their perspective on what it's like from the parent side of things, how it's been for them to be part of the St. Joe's community, and of course, how the last either couple years or how the 4 years were for their son. We actually have an alum in the car with his mom on this this Sofa Social tonight, so it should be fun to see if we can have Jalen pop in a little bit. So let me introduce everyone real quick. Hillary Barnett is in the top left portion of the screen from our admissions office. I'm Ryan Aselto, our director of admissions. Kim McDermott from our admissions office is in your top right. Michelle Panacidi is on your bottom left. Michelle is the mom of Frankie. He is a member of the class of 2023. So he's a senior at St. Joe's, and many of you have met Frankie over the last couple months, either on a tour or at our open house. He's very active as a part of our ambassador program. Gina Wade is at the bottom middle of your screen. Gina is taking her son, Jalen, back to Shippensburg right now. Jalen was a member of the class of 2022 and graduated last year. He was an ambassador for us as well. So Gina is going to share her perspective as she's en route and traveling right now. And I know a couple of the parents are hopping on in just a moment. So I will introduce them as they come on. Kim, I'd be remiss to tell everyone, Kim is also a parent of St. Joe's alum. She is the mom of Andrew, class of 2020, and stepmom of Jake from the class of 2019. So we are here to answer all of your questions, parent to parent, regarding St. Joe's. And I guess, Michelle, let me start with you. Frankie is amazingly, his 4 years are getting ready to wrap up. I'm sure that's bittersweet for you, probably a little emotional, hard to believe.
Hard to believe.
Yeah, I bet. Can you sum up what the 4 years have been like for you guys as a family and being a part of the St. Joe's family?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I also have a 2020 graduate, Anthony, who was at St. Joe's for 4 years as well. It's been it's gone by so quickly. They all say the high school years go by, amazingly fast, and it's absolutely true. Frankie was part of the COVID years. So, he came in as a freshman, and fast forward, it's senior year already. And there was all that COVID nonsense in between, which St. Joe's handled beautifully well. But all of a sudden, he's a senior, and hard to believe, but he's had an amazing run, ambassador, part of the baseball team, just having an outstanding run. He really enjoys every day. In fact, when there are days that we're not in session, he's a little disappointed. He does love going to school. And I don't know that he's quite ready to give it all up in May or June or whenever we end. So, but it is coming to a close, and he's just enjoying it while he can. But it's been really great.
You mentioned looking forward to going to school. I want to bring in Gina and Jalen for this next question. It's something Jalen mentioned to me in our conversations last year about how the commute wasn't easy for you guys. I know that for for Jalen when he was driving, and Gina when you were taking him. You guys did not live close to St. Joe's, but Jalen always mentioned to me that despite getting up at 5:30 in the morning or whatever it was to try to get to school, he woke up every day looking forward to get to school. What was that like for you, Gina, as a parent, seeing that drive in Jalen that was really prompted by St. Joe's and the connection he had with the school?
Well, as Jalen had explained to me before, St. Joe's, all the students that are at St. Joe's, they want to be there. So for him, he wanted to be there. So there was never an issue with him waking up in the morning or getting his homework done or with his time management, because he wanted to be there. From the first time where he had his when he shadowed someone, like that's where he wanted to be, just off of that. He did different schools, but St. Joe's was the ones that did it for him. It wasn't easy. I'm not gonna fib. It was not easy the first year. We were in the car. Well, I was in the car literally 4 hours a day. So it's an hour there and an hour back. He was in the car 2 hours. And I did that on my own that first year. The second year, we were fortunate enough to have another student who doesn't live too far from us, and we shared that commute. But to see that drive in him, and that it helps so much. And now, as we are coming back from Shippensburg, because he is going to be home for the next month for Christmas, everything at St. Joe's prepared him to be able to be successful in college. And I guess he can talk to you. You won't be able to see him, but he can tell you how the time management, the schoolwork, with him being a student athlete, St. Joe's helped him with all of that, which spilled over now into his freshman year. And he's just completed, I can't even believe it, his first semester. And we're getting ready to go into second semester of freshman year. Like, I can't believe it.
Jalen, let me ask you about that, since this was supposed to be a parent webinar, but we have a prestigious alum on here, so we got to get you involved. I know we caught up this fall when you returned to St. Joe's, and we were at one of the football games, and you said things were going really well for you. Can you share with some of the parents who are starting this process now, and thinking about your 4 years, how it got you ready for college, and how your mom alluded to is when you started at Shippensburg, did you feel ready? That's something that we pride ourselves on as a school, but how was it for you as a student actually stepping foot into a college classroom after spending time at St. Joe's?
Yes, being there for 4 years, it did help me seem ready, especially being able to have that one-on-one connection with all my teachers, and also having good connections with upperclassmen that graduated and came back and visited, talking to them. They did everything that we learned from class from freshman year till my last day helped, because with time management, they gave us ideas, tips, plan out spreadsheets of how to do different things, especially for some of our teachers also playing college sports. So they know what it's like getting up early, having workouts, practice in class and all that stuff. So they did do a good job, at least showing me how to have a time frame for every single thing that I do throughout my day.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Great to hear, and great to see that you're doing so well. We have our first question of the night is coming in from Kelly. Kelly wants to know, do you feel like the guidance department was very helpful with the college admissions process? So I'll start this one with Kim, who had two boys come through St. Joe's and has been through this process, and both of them have gone on to college and had great academic and athletic careers. Kim, what was that like for you as a mom, with the guidance department working together in that college admissions process?
Hi, Ryan, thanks. The guidance department was really at our disposal, I felt like, as a parent. Jake was a football player at St. Joe's. Andrew was a baseball player at St. Joe's. Jake is attending Amherst College in Massachusetts. Andrew started off at Quinnipiac and is now at Queen's University of Charlotte. And we really found that the guidance department really falls into turn with almost every other area of the school, where the staff is super accessible. They know your student well. They get to know them over the 4 years. The size of the school really lends itself to that. So they have a rapport with these guys. So when it comes time to help them in that college process, they're not just, randomly pushing papers. They know the kids well enough to make solid recommendations on schools that they feel would be a good fit for them, not just academically, athletically, socially, financially, logistically, geographically, everything. So I felt like the guidance department was really an integral part of helping both of my boys make informed, solid decisions that worked out well for both of them.
How about you, Michelle? You've got one as a senior, one has been through this process just a couple years ago. How was the connection and the involvement from your end, from the parents' side, with the guidance office and going through what is really, it's a few years of a process in taking them from really sophomore year up until, okay, we've decided where we're going to go to college as seniors, right?
Yes, and to piggyback on what Kim said, I really think that it does start sophomore year. And I saw that with both boys. There's guidance nights for each grade, sophomore guidance night, junior guidance night, then senior guidance night. And they have speakers that come in and talk about the application process. And, those are coming from other colleges that they talk about, what their processes are and how it relates back to St. Joe's, and really how they look at the application when it comes from St. Joe's, that they look at that positively and they feel like that is somebody that they want after they know the rigors that they went through at St. Joe's, that might be somebody they want at their school. I had a very similar experience with that Kim had. They really helped both boys through everything from making your own resume to, helping even the English department helps you write your essays and all of the different pieces and parts that make up the application, as well as guiding you on what might be a good fit for you. Similar to what Kim mentioned, whether it be geographically or socially or what have you, they were there to hold your hand through the whole step. And they're really, what I really like is it does include the parents, but it's more so guided by the student. They are, we're raising young men, and everything that St. Joe's does is treat them like they are independent young men, held themselves high, shake a hand, make that eye contact, and all of those things that are going to help you in life going forward. And guidance does work hand in hand with the boys, with the parents, whether the parents want to be very involved, just slightly involved, it just works.
Yeah, it's great perspective. I want to welcome in, I think our next two parents have hopped on at this point. Mike, are you with us?
I am, yes. Hi, Ryan. How are you?
Hey, Mike. So Michael DeMarco joins us, and Michael is the dad of three boys, two of which are currently at St. Joe's, one who's graduated, Michael, who graduated in 2022, Patrick, who is a member of the class of 2025, and John, who is a current student in our Knightsbridge Academy. So Michael has three boys. He is green and gold through and through at this point in the DeMarco household.
I actually have four boys, a 5-year-old who also wears green and gold for the rest.
future Green Knight. So we're talking, what are we talking? Class of 2036, something like that, Mike?
I'll take your word on it.
If my math is right. Well, that's fantastic. And I see Erica Brennan is on here as well. I'm trying to get her unmuted. Erica is the mom of two St. Joe's boys. Shane, class of 2022, and Tommy, class of 2024. And she is also married to a Green Knight alum, John Brennan. I believe John was class of 1990 or 91. He was there just before I was at St. Joe's. So once we get Erica unmuted, we'll get some questions to her. We do have some more questions coming in right now. Peter's got a question for the parents. What other schools did you consider, and what made you pick St. Joe's over the other schools? I'm going to direct this one to Mike, because I think, Mike, you seem to have a interesting backstory to how your boys, but also your family ended up at St. Joe's. What other schools were you looking at, Mike, for your boys?
Okay. You're right, Ryan. It is an interesting story because my family was a legacy family at Don Bosco. Not only did my brothers and I attend Don Bosco, but my oldest brother actually sent my nephew, his oldest son, to Don Bosco. So while I don't want to say it was assumed that that's where my older son was going to go, I think that was the case. Nonetheless, we thought it would be a good idea for him to shadow and look into not only Don Bosco but also St. Joe's and Bergen Catholic. My oldest son went with an open mind to all three schools, with St. Joe's being the last. Don Bosco was the second. After he came home from Don Bosco, he thought it was a good school, and he thought that's where he may want to attend. But he said he was going to finish, the rounds, and he wanted to give every school a shot. I'll never forget the day being a Bosco grad. I can tell you where I was when I got the call, when I was told that he was filing one application, and that was going to be with St. Joe's, and that he wasn't interested any longer in Don Bosco or any other school. And when I asked him why, he just was overwhelmed by the sense of family that he got from St. Joe's. Unlike my other two sons who are there now, Michael, my oldest, wasn't an athlete. Didn't have any friends or anyone from our town at St. Joe's. Didn't know the boy that he shadowed with. Notwithstanding, he just felt like he was part of the family. And to use his words, he referenced the lunch period, and it wasn't the food that impressed him, but that his words were that he felt as though it was one big lunch table, rather than several smaller lunch tables, the way he felt at the other school. And he just felt an overwhelming sense of family. And that's what made the decision easy for him. As they say, the rest is history. We got to learn a lot about St. Joe's, and now my friends from Don Bosco, they'll bust me whenever they can, but I couldn't be happier with the decision. Over the Thanksgiving holiday, Michael, who's now a freshman at college, the boys were sitting around the table and they were joking about experiences they had with teachers and everything St. Joe's. And Michael just looked up and he said, "Dad, I can't tell you how thankful I am that I attended St. Joe's." And obviously he made the right decision, and my other boys felt the same way. So I can tell you from our perspective, we encouraged our boys to look at them all, and ultimately St. Joe's was the choice.
Oh, what a fantastic story. I get goosebumps here about Michael coming home and saying that. And Michael's at Seton Hall. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Michael wanted to stay. He got accepted to a lot of great schools through, the help of the guidance department at St. Joe's. Actually received a lot of scholarship money from a lot of good schools. Ultimately decided he wanted to stay close, and he's at Seton Hall now. Correct.
Like to get some other parents' perspective on the decision to come to St. Joe's. Erica, let me ask you, you're a legacy family to St. Joe's, but I know your boys, they think for themselves, and I'm sure they looked around and we have a lot of great options in Bergen County for parochial schools. What was that process like for you guys as a family, first with Shane and then obviously Tommy behind him?
Yeah, so for us, it was St. Joe's, our public school, that was our family decision. With the dad as an alum, he wasn't as open, I would say, as Mr. DeMarco. And I really didn't expect Shane to pick St. Joe's. I was kind of surprised. We took him to the open house and I thought it was going to be, all right, let's get out of here. And he was so calm and so comfortable and felt really welcomed by everybody that day. He ended up coming for a night for a day, and he loved that. He said he really liked how the teachers talked to the students. He felt like there was just like a nice respect between the teachers and the students. He felt like the students seemed comfortable, and that really sold him. The day that he spent shadowing somebody, helped that it was a cousin, but the day he spent shadowing, he was like, this is it. This is what I'm going to do. I do remember every day freshman year picking him up, because I would drive him and I would ask, are you okay? Are you happy? Do you think you made the right decision? And every day he was happy to get picked up and happy to go. So it ended up being great. It's funny that Mr. DeMarco mentioned the cafeteria. I don't know if incoming parents realize, but the lunch is multi-grade. So freshmen all the way through seniors, and not always the same students every day. I was very nervous about that in the beginning. If anybody knows Shane, they know he's like 125 pounds. And I would pick him up and see men who were like 250 coming out with their football uniforms and stuff. And I would say, "Are you okay in there? Do you feel comfortable in that cafeteria?" And he said, "They're my brothers." So, it worked.
Yeah.
And then
yeah.
Tommy just wanted to follow. Of course, he saw how much fun Shane was having and how great an experience it was, and he couldn't wait to get there.
Gina, let me ask you with Jalen, that decision, I'm sure you guys were looking around. Jalen, as a football player, I'm sure there were coaches having conversations and seeing him play as a middle schooler. What was the ultimate factor for you guys as a family in deciding on St. Joe's?
Well, I had already made my decision, but I didn't let Jalen know what my decision was. I wanted him to make it on his own. I knew where I was leaning towards. And it wasn't until the actual, signing day, I remember it was on a Saturday, and we were up at 8 a.m. and we had to be at wherever we were going. We had to be there by I think 10 or 11. And either way, it's still an hour drive. So we're in the car and we're going back and forth. Are we getting off at exit such and such? Or are we getting off at exit 172? Like, which one is it? And so then we were driving, and he was like, St. Joe's. And I was like, thank you, God. And so, for him, it was the, the religious class. I can't remember, my mind is going blank. I can't remember who the religious teacher was, but that really put it over the top for him, as well as the lunchroom experience and the brotherhood and just a feeling of family, even though he hadn't gone there yet, but just that day that he did the nights for a day, that feeling of family. And even when he's coming home, that's the first thing he does is does that hour drive back up that way and go visit everybody up that way. So, it spills over. You want to talk? Yeah, it spills over into even after. Here we are. And you see what he has on, right?
You can't make that up. Perfect, Jalen. Perfect. Jalen, you remember that ride with your mom, going to registration day and telling her which exit to get off?
Yeah, I remember it like it was yesterday. Yeah, those are good times.
We're glad you got off at the right exit, Jalen.
Me too.
We got some more questions coming in from parents. And remember, you just need to click the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, and then you can type your question into the side panel, and we'll direct that to the parents. Robin has a question. Great to see Robin on here tonight. Do your boys feel they learned good study habits and time management skills? Were those things addressed at St. Joe's? Michelle, let me ask you about that. Let's face it, 8th grade boys, they are not good at managing their time. It's a acquired skill, let's say, over their time in high school. How has that been for your boys, your older son who came through, and now Frankie? How were they able to learn those very important skills?
So those were very important skills that both of them took seriously. They came from an interesting situation because they were public school boys. And when they came up to St. Joe's and the process of even picking a school, they took it really very seriously. So from the day they stepped foot on campus, they knew that my husband and I were affording them an opportunity that wasn't afforded to the other children in the neighborhood coming from public school. So from the minute they walked through the doors, they took the whole process very seriously, and their study skills were formed at St. Joe's for sure. And they've now, Anthony, who's a junior, has taken them all the way up. He gets Dean's List every marking period because of the foundation that was laid at St. Joe's. Frankie is, a 4.0 or 4+, whatever you forget the scale they use at St. Joe's, but 102 grade point average scale. And that's really because the different teachers, the classes, the opportunities for honors and AP classes, they really foster that ability to apply themselves and really give 110%. And they both took that very seriously. So for that, I'm very grateful because I see it working out beautifully for Anthony in his college career. And I expect Frankie to get, a lot of really great opportunities when he gets his applications back and make good choices and take those study skills forward in his college career. So
Yeah,
they were great.
It's so essential, being the parent of now a ninth grader at St. Joe's, seeing that metamorphosis very quickly from my son to disorganized middle schooler to really picking it up very quickly over the first couple months. And the teachers really, they teach those skills. They stress the importance of time management and figuring out that schedule. And our school, I know us as administrators and the teachers really tell the boys they need to advocate for themselves. And part of that is a learned skill as well. Mom and dad, we've done a lot for them over the years coming up as middle schoolers. But in high school, we really push the boys to talk with teachers, talk with coaches, advocate for themselves, which is a skill they're certainly going to need when they get to college and well beyond that. Erica, how about you? The skills of maybe the study skills that the boys learned, Shane and Tommy over the last 4 or 5 years at St. Joe's. How have you seen that, just the skills they developed to make them better students?
Oh, I think one of the things that is nice as a parent is that we get a Google summary every week on Friday, and you kind of see what assignments they had to do and what's planned for the next week. And for us, that was really helpful because at home we could talk about, hey, you have this, and this week that's not academics, and then you have a test this day and a test that day. Plan ahead. How do you manage to do your activities and do your academics? So as a parent, that's so helpful because you have an idea going into the week. Things change, but you have an idea going in what they have ahead of them. I think both of my kids have really been able to manage it and been able to keep up with the Google Classroom and keep up with the assignments. And Shane is a freshman at Providence right now, and he is got all this work and he is got a ton of reading, and he is not freaking out, which is amazing. Going into finals week, he is so calm and he's like, I've got it, which I really credit to the experience that he had at St. Joe's.
All right, we got a question regarding involvement of parents. How do parents get involved, and can they get involved right away as ninth grade parents? Hillary, why don't you take this question, because I know you have a lot of contact with the Parents Guild. Maybe share a little bit about how parents do get involved in the community and really right away when their son becomes a Green Knight, right?
Thank you, Ryan. Yes, we offer lots of opportunities for parents to get involved, and the Parents Guild is a great example. Parents Guild is growing and trying to figure out basically who they are in terms of what they want to bring to the school. So they have a lot of functions right now. They're starting meetings, monthly meetings to keep everybody up to speed, kind of like your PFA, FFA, PTA. So there's lots of opportunities there. If your son is in sports or a club like performing arts, there's also a lot of opportunity to get involved as a parent there as well. And parents do come back. We have at every event and every club activity, we have alumni parents who do come back and they're involved as well. Set building for performing arts, coming to concerts, parents are always around the building, and we're very welcoming. I think the last SOFA Social, we were talking about the difference between other schools and us as far as the welcoming atmosphere that we have. When you walk into the door, we don't stop you and hold you there. It's kind of, you get to actually be in the school and get to feel the energy and walk around. It's great. We're very welcoming, and we do love our parents very much. We need our parents very much to be involved, and we offer those opportunities.
All right, fantastic. Kelly has a question. How does the alumni get involved with students at the school? I guess I can take this as being an alum. The alumni are very engaged with our student body. In fact, we had an alum in today speaking to our science classes today, an alum who has sponsored a few scholarships here at St. Joe's. He came in to speak to the science classes about his scientific environmental lab that is his business, and teaching the boys about environmental science, which is doing that on his own time. And he spoke to 4 classes today at St. Joe's. So that's an example of alums coming back on campus, speaking to the boys, spreading their knowledge. We do have a career day every year where alums come back, 5 to 6 of them per session, and the boys can sign up to listen to different alumni speakers about their career. And it's a great way for our students to network a little bit, meet these alums, make those connections. As I always tell the families that come in, the brotherhood does not just stop after 4 years. It's lifelong. So boys who get to meet alums, there's a connection, they exchange contacts, and all of a sudden an alum is helping out a student maybe with an internship while they're in college. That was a St. Joe's guy, or a job down the road. So they are very much a part of the fabric of our community. As far as athletic events, you see alums at those as well. Our open houses, many alums come to support us. So they are very, very involved with the current student body, which is fantastic to see. I have a question coming in about making friends at St. Joe's. How hard was it for your son to make friends at a new school, especially the parents who sent their sons from public school? I forget, Erica, if your boys, I know you were deciding between public school and St. Joe's, but how was it for them? I mean, high school's new in general. They're at an age where there's a lot going on up here in their body and in their maturity. And now they have to make a lot of new friends. How was that for your boys when they came to St. Joe's?
I think that they quickly felt part of the group and part of the brotherhood. I think for my older son, it took a little longer because of COVID to find his actual crew that he's close to. That just set them back a little bit. But I would say Tommy came in and he knew a couple kids and found kids right away, and was off and running. I know he had a friend who transferred in, and I said, "You think he's going to be okay? You think it's going to be okay?" And he was like, "Mom, it's fine. Once you walk in the door, you're part of it. He'll be fine." And I was like, okay, that's all I needed to know. So I think pretty quickly they feel part of it. It might just take a little time to find who's interested in what you're interested in and that stuff. There is the challenge before they're driving that they don't all live in the same town. And sometimes that can be a challenge, but you will find so many of them still there after school, involved in things or before school. A lot of kids are there early before school, that they do have a lot of time together during their day if it's hard before they have their licenses, and then there's a lot of driving each other, which is helpful.
Yes, definitely. Mike, how about you? You mentioned the boys, and you mentioned how they're very different boys. Michael was not necessarily a big athlete. You've got obviously Patrick is a football player. How's it been for them making friends at St. Joe's and joining this community, and different aspects of it, making friends in, I guess, different places and different programs at St. Joe's?
Yeah, it was a very welcoming community. And first with my son Michael, he came from public school. There were no other boys from our town that went to St. Joe, so he was all by himself, and he didn't know anyone on his first day. But the number of different clubs and organizations that St. Joe's offers is mind-boggling, and the boys are really encouraged to get involved in different clubs that interest them. And it's very interesting to see how they all seem to take part of these clubs. So very early on, boys are choosing organizations and clubs that interest them, whether it's chess club, whether it's campus ministry, Unico, or ACES. And this is all in addition, obviously, to the sports programs. So very early on, I saw my son Michael, who came in knowing nobody, was able to identify other boys that had very similar and common interests as he did. And as a result, the transition was seamless. It was as though the friends that he made in the first week at St. Joe's were the friends that he had made in his years in public school. With respect to Patrick and John, it was a little different because they both play football. So coming into the school year, you've already spent several months with the other football players or other team members, and you're on campus and you're getting to know soccer players who are also on campus. With respect to all of my boys, it was very easy. And I can tell you, they're not the most overly social, okay? But it was very easy for them to make friends based upon what the school has to offer. And I can tell you that these are quality friendships that have been made. And in Michael's case, that are continuing beyond, the high school years.
And it's great to hear from the families who sent their boys from public schools, because we do get many families coming to St. Joe's from public schools, and the main concern many of the boys have are leaving their friends. And I've told my son this, who came from public school, and maybe Michelle, you can hop in.
Yeah,
They
absolutely.
don't lose their public school friends. They just
No,
don't go
they
to
don't.
school with them. And early on, freshman and sophomore year especially, they still hang out quite a bit with them back in their town. But that the friendships start to blossom at St. Joe's over those few years. But they just have two different friend groups, right?
Yeah, and I can definitely speak to this because for both of my boys, they came out of Maywood and the public schools in Maywood, and no one else from Maywood went to school with them. So there were Maywood kids that came from some of the other parochial schools, but they were the only ones out of public school, both of them in their years that they went. So for them, they walked in first, they are baseball players, and they did have the baseball friends that they met over summer camp and all the different events that go on before, whether it be signing day or when you're signing to go to St. Joe's, they were able to meet people right there. So they felt really comfortable going through the door day one in September. And they did keep a close tie with their neighborhood friends, as well as their new St. Joe's friends. And still to this day, I mean, my junior in college, he still has his group chat, his freshman baseball group chat from St. Joe's baseball, that they all still speak to each other. They meet up every Thanksgiving to play football together. They have events all the time. They're still very good friends. Same with Frankie. Frankie he was lucky enough to meet a great group of friends right out of the gate. I think it was the first couple of weeks they go to a Sopus, so they get to know each other there even more. That a lot of them were baseball or sports guys, but just the varied friendships through all the different, whether they're theater friends or just friends in their classes. And Frankie too still has a relationship with all of his at-home friends, and that there's a lot of crossover there too. So when St. Joe's has a football game and Frankie's going, his neighborhood friends from home, from public school, they come to the games. So it's just such great overlap. To speak to the before license thing, that was a surprise to us. So we didn't realize that when you're going 15 minutes away from home to go to high school, and you have to drive them every day, that wasn't the surprise. The surprise was that Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday afternoon, it's parties in Upper Saddle River, and it's gatherings over in Hillsdale. And we did a lot of driving, which wasn't anticipated, but so worthwhile because the networking we feel that they have moving forward with so many people from so many different towns. It's just so, we feel very blessed, and they do as well. The both boys feel like they are so blessed to have had the opportunity and continue to have those friendships to build upon.
Yeah, and I think I'm learning that as a freshman parent now, what you mentioned, Michelle. And I think we'd all agree, we make it work. We make it happen for the boys so that they can be with their friends. I recently, just a couple of weeks ago, my son asked if he could go to the mall, which, blew my mind anyway. I didn't know people still did that. I did that in the, the 80s and 90s, and I'm sure you guys did. But he wanted to go to the mall with one friend from Westwood, one friend from Wyckoff, and one from Fairlawn. And they were all going to meet up, and they wanted to go to Smashburger or something and go to a movie. And we made that happen. And that's the beauty of St. Joe's. You're meeting friends from so many different areas. that force us to carpool with other families and get to know them a little bit. So yeah, it's different than just saying, yeah, go to town and see your friends.
It's
But I
kind of
think,
cool too, that I do
Yeah.
want to mention, although this is about St. Joe's, I did also find when they would go to the mall and they would run into the Bergen kids and they would run into the Bosco kids, they all still felt, because they all still feel like they're part of a different group and one and the same, if that makes any kind of sense. Even though there's these huge football rivalries, baseball rivalries, when they're in the malls, they do feel like they're brothers as well. Not brothers like St. Joe's, but there is a lot of that goes on. And I noticed that in college too. So on my older son's baseball team, he's really good friends in college with the guys that were the Bergen baseball players and the Bosco baseball players. So those lines get very blurred when you get out of school, which I think is kind of cool, because it's all like North Jersey parochial schools, high level sports teams and all that good stuff.
right. I want to circle back to, we were talking a little bit earlier about getting prepared for college, because we are a college preparatory school, and that is our number one priority that we tell the boys when I speak with them, is that we want to prepare you for college over the 4 years. And we do that in many different ways. And some of that is the structure of our day, with the way learning the study skills that we talked about, or time management. The boys really have the opportunity after school to make sure they are keeping with that college prep theme of getting their work done, getting their studying done before they go to their athletics practices. We have many athlete parents on this Zoom session, but I'm curious, guys, how the structure of the day, the ability, the availability of their teachers after school, how did that help them as a whole prepare them academically for what they're going to see in college? Erica, do you want to take that one?
Can I do want to answer your question, but a little different. So
Okay.
a couple of things that the boys have said to us that helped prepare them for, Tommy just went through recruiting for lacrosse, and he has to talk to all these coaches and cold calls and stuff. And you know what he said helped a lot was being an ambassador for the school, because you have to talk to parents and adults and be professional. And he said that also the ambassadors had made phone calls to parents of possible incoming students and stuff. And he said just being able to know how to do that, make those phone calls, really made him feel comfortable. And then Shane, like when he went on a job interview, he said, again, being an ambassador and talking to lots of different parents as part of the face of the school, that really prepared them for conversations with adults that they've never met before, and they felt comfortable and able to express themselves. So that wasn't from the classroom, that was from activities that they're involved with, right?
Mhm.
So they both felt that that really helped them a ton. Another thing that also helped them to be able to express themselves, I know for Shane, was being involved with some of the retreats at school. He really found that that helped him in different aspects to be able to feel comfortable in front of people and stuff like that. So they got some prep work, not from the classroom, from other things. But from the classroom, the teachers did prepare them well. The teachers were always available for, going over a test or answering a question. Some of them in the morning before school. My kids are there very early. And some of them after school, they would meet before they would go to a practice, which is really helpful that they had so much ability to meet with the teachers at different times in the day.
Yeah. We got about 10 minutes to go. So if you have some final questions, please put those in the Q&A box on your Zoom screen. Just click the button at the bottom and you can type away, and we'll get those to the moms and dads that are on here in the next 10 minutes or so. Mike, how about you with Michael now being at Seton Hall, the academic preparedness that he received at St. Joe's? Was there one aspect that he looks back or he's expressed to you that assured that he was ready for a place like Seton Hall?
Yeah, definitely. So, the biggest advice is to take advantage of everything that St. Joe's has to offer, because it has a lot to offer. Michael did take advantage of it all. First, and Ryan, Michael, he's a humble person. He takes after his mother, luckily. But he'll be the first person to tell you that when he walks into a classroom, he knows that, and this is from day one at Seton Hall, he knows that he's the most prepared person in that class, and he attributes it all to St. Joe's. He took advantage of the AP course offerings. He took advantage of the online course offerings. As a result, and this is his first semester, he's already considered a sophomore, or he will be at the end of this semester, based upon the college credits that he was able to accumulate at St. Joe's. I know a lot of my brother has my niece was in public school. She's at Penn State now, and while she took AP courses and thought she was going to be getting credits, it turns out that the institution accepted very little. But what St. Joe's had to offer stuck. And again, at the end of this semester, he'll already be considered a sophomore. And it was the discourse in the classroom, the dialogue with the professors, all of that made him prepared for what was ahead at Seton Hall. And the commitment of the teachers, to stay after school is just mind-boggling to me. I'm also I'm the president of the Touchdown Club, as you know, Ryan, and I also volunteer as a football coach. So I'm familiar with what goes on in the program and the structure that is involved with the mandatory study hall. And the teachers are always there. If you fall behind in a course, you have the student has one person to blame, because the structure is there if you want to take advantage of it.
Yeah. Kim, you want to hop in on this with having your boys come through, but also now finished up with college, and you're kind of seeing a bit of a finished product, though they're never really finished, as we know as parents, right? But why don't you hop in on their preparedness for college?
I just wanted to add, Ryan, a lot of great points have been made, all of which I would agree with. Andrew was quite prepared from a time management and a academic standpoint. I think one of the things that might have been overlooked so far is what came in very handy to him was our rotational schedule. Sorry, I'm wrestling with my dog a little bit here. The fact that they don't have the same class at the same time every day, much like what they will have in college, right? When they get to college, their classes are Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, or Monday and Wednesday night. So there's not that have a class every morning at 8, make sure you do the homework by the next morning at 8, do it all over again. So because we give them that rotational schedule, they very early on get used to managing the time and prioritizing the assignments and the homework and the group projects, and basing that on not only their extracurricular schedules, but the course schedule itself, when the next time they meet for that class is and when they'd have to get the work done by. And I think that was important for Andrew to figure out.
Okay. Robin's got a question. What is the percentage of boys who drive, get dropped off, or take other means of transportation? Where do families live? It's a great question. I don't have a percentage for you, Robin, but I can kind of explain the dynamic of our community when the boys coming to school. We have students from almost 150 different towns. So as you can imagine, there's various forms of transportation these boys are taking. Some boys take a bus. If they come from certain towns, a bus is provided for them. There are many students who hop on some of the St. Joe's vans or buses. We scatter them around the area at centralized locations and pickup stops so that the boys have a way to get into school from north, south, east, and west of our school to make the commute a little bit easier. Maybe a family lives a half hour away. They have a drop off 15 minutes from them. They do that, it cuts it in half, and their son is safely driven to school. So there are some boys that take public transportation to some of those drop-off stops. We have students that come from Orange County, New York, that take a train to a train station. I know there are boys that take New Jersey Transit buses to the Garden State Plaza and pick up our vans there. Students get older, they do drive to St. Joe's. And of course, there is the community aspect. Many students carpool together, whether their sons are driving and driving some of the underclassmen, or parents simply carpooling. We try to help families who do ask of, are there 4 or 5 families in my area that I can get in contact with to see if they want to carpool? I know myself and Hillary do that a lot, and putting families in touch with each other. So they come from all over, but we do try to do our best to make sure they get here, or have a little assistance in getting to St. Joe's. So that's kind of the dynamic of the transportation situation. Question coming in: how many of the sports team coaches teach at the school? By my count, I've got 8 or 9 coaches that currently teach or work at the school. So many of our coaches are there throughout the day, which is great. They get to know these boys not just as athletes or their players or names on their rosters. They get to know them as students and young men, and get to know their families quite a bit. So we do have a lot of coaches that do teach at St. Joe's. One more question coming in: do you think that student to teacher ratio is appropriate? So our student to teacher ratio currently is 13:1. Let me ask some of the parents here. Michelle, the difference, your boys came from public school to a smaller school at St. Joe's, smaller classes. How much do you think that affected the success, and how well did your boys thrive in that smaller environment?
Yeah, so we were at a small public school as well. We're a very small town. But I do find that the teacher ratio to student, the teacher to student ratio is great at St. Joe's. The one thing is, we're a big campus at St. Joe's, but the student body, if I'm right, is somewhere in the 500 person range. Am I right when I say that?
Yeah, right around there. Yeah.
So every teacher gets to know your student. They know them walking through the halls. Even if they haven't taken their classes, they know everyone. Everyone knows each other by name. And as a lot of people have said on this Zoom, the accessibility is unbelievable. I mean, the coaches know not to start practices until after, I don't know, I think it's after 2:30, but the kids have from 2 to 2:30 to meet with the different teachers. And the student to teacher ratio is great. I've never had an issue with any of it. I also want to speak to the preparedness from the AP classes. Somebody mentioned, I guess it was Mr. DeMarco mentioned that his son is almost a sophomore already as a freshman at college. And we're seeing that now with Frankie. He's in many AP classes that are offering 3 college credits for the AP class. I think he has 3. He's going to go into college with 9 college credits just from this senior year alone. And he has a couple from last year, from junior year. So I cannot say enough great things about the teachers, the setup, the scheduling, the availability. It's a perfect size building. I mean, really, and I really think that somebody has touched on this earlier, but I do have to mention it. It's more than just your academics. It's that shake a hand, make the eye contact. These boys in those 4 years become men. They go out there, they can make those phone calls, they can shake those hands, they can network for themselves, and they are every bit the independent man you are looking to raise. And I mean, that's my feeling on the subject. And I feel St. Joe's has held our hands as parents through that whole process from beginning to end.
Erica, you're an educator. You've obviously seen different size classes and how that affects the learning environment. How much of the size of the school and the classes helped your boys have success in the classroom?
I think the size is good. I know Tommy's in I think the smallest class that we have there. So his classes have been smaller maybe than Shane's were. Shane's were a little bit bigger, but I think that they were like under 24 most of the time, students in their class. I know we came from a middle school where I walked into an honors math class at parent teachers, and I said to the teacher, how many kids do you have in this class? Because there were so many parents there. There was like 35 kids in the class. And I didn't think that's how you learn math. So the class size was great. Actually, my kids liked the class size, and both looked at colleges that would kind of mimic that, where they would have the same kind of interaction ability with their teachers, because they really liked that aspect of St. Joe's. You know, not for everybody when they go to college, but my kids really liked interacting with the teachers and participating, and the teachers knowing them really well, and looked for that for their futures. But I think the class size has been really good.
Okay, we have a couple more questions before we wrap things up. Kelly and David want to know, how many of the kids would you estimate that start at St. Joe's as freshmen stay until graduation? Do you know how that compares to other schools? And what do you feel leads kids to leave the school before the 4 years end? I'm happy to say that number, that percentage, Kelly and David, is in the single digits from a percentage standpoint. More than 90% of students that started freshmen, they graduate all the way through the 4 years at St. Joe's. I think many of the schools are similar in that, and the reasons, as you can imagine, they are wide ranging. Anything from, we have seen families that move, families that athletically things may have not worked out like they hoped for their son. Family situations change, family financial situations change. I could not put my finger on the reason for that. We also get those students coming in after freshman year as well from some of the other schools. So it's kind of a revolving door a little bit each year, but I'm happy to say that number is very small. We pride ourselves on the students that start at St. Joe's, stay at St. Joe's, and the ones that, I think Mike mentioned it, it's the ones that get the idea of getting involved and taking advantage of opportunities right away at freshman. They know that's the place for them. They know that they don't have any desire to leave if they're involved in the school and the community. So hope that answers your question a little bit. So I'd like to wrap things up in our final minute here real quick, guys. You were all in these shoes not that long ago, within the last 4, 5, 6 years, as parents of 8th graders having to make a decision. If you could quickly give the one piece of advice, how to handle these next few months. The application deadline is this week on Friday. We'll have accepted students night in January, and then registration day is in February. What would be your advice for parents who are going through this right now? I guess, Mike, I'll start with you and then work my way around real quick.
Yeah, my advice would be to, your son's going to know the right fit. By now, you'll have, visited the various schools. And he's going to have a feel for the right fit. I think you have to give, okay, your son the credit, and you have to give them the ability to make this decision. With respect to the parents who have athletes, I think you should make your decision as though they weren't going to play a sport, because they will be students first. Things happen with respect to athletics. And it has to be a place where you're comfortable and you're going to be happy. So I'm glad that was the path that I chose, because if the decision was up to me, having gone to a different school, I may not be here today. And I can tell you that would be a huge regret, as evidenced by my son's statement to me a few weekends ago. So that would be the best advice I could give.
Great. And we are glad you are here with us tonight, Mike, and not somewhere else, thinking back retrospectively. Michelle, how about you? One bit of advice for an 8th grade mom or dad who are sitting down at that table and they're weighing the options, and what do we do? What would be your biggest piece of advice?
I would say you have to attend everything that you can. Go to the accepted students nights at the different schools. It's sort of like a calendar. It shakes itself out. The student will decide what's the best fit. I do agree with Mike wholeheartedly. When Anthony, who was the first one to do the process of going to the different schools, he picked a school that he felt was going to be comfortable with or without baseball. If baseball didn't work out for him, he would maybe try lacrosse, or he just knew that there were other opportunities there for him. So I would absolutely say that is definitely something to keep in mind. You want a place that's going to feel like home for 4 years, and the student will figure that out.
How about you, Erica? What's your advice for these moms and dads who they're going to have some stressful weeks coming up here, and things are weighing on an 8th grader's mind that leads to a lot of stress? How do you advise them to handle this?
I would say try and have fun with it, because, they are young. 14 is young. I do this talked to a lot of 14-year-olds at Immaculate Heart Academy, and they don't really know. They're really young. They need a little bit of guidance, but keep those lines of communication open, see what they provide to you. And I would just say, if you pick St. Joe's, you will know that your child will be looked out for on good and bad days. You will have a family for you and for your child. I don't think that you'll regret it, but I would just say try and have some fun with it, because we don't need to stress them about it. It should be fun. They should be excited about where they're going to go. So hopefully they'll feel excited about St. Joe's.
It is. It's an exciting time for these boys, and of course, for the moms and dads out there. And I think that's probably a good way to wrap things up tonight. This was a lot of fun tonight, hearing from the perspectives of all these parents. And we thank all of you guys for joining us. Many of you have been on all 4 of these webinars, or 3 out of the 4. So we hope we were able to provide you with some answers to ease the stress for you guys a little bit. Of course, myself and Hillary and Kim are always there for you to help answer any further questions you have. So feel free to give us a call or email us. A reminder, our application deadline is on Friday, December 9th. That is for admission and for financial aid. And then we will be sending out our decisions on January 13th is when you will receive those. Okay, so we thank you all for joining us, and thanks to all of our panelists, especially our parent panelists, Michelle, Erica, Michael, Gina, who I know she's left to take Jalen back to school, Kim and Hillary. Thank you guys, and Steve for helping us out on the back end of this tonight. And we hope to see you guys all on campus again real soon. Thanks, everybody.
Good luck to the parents.
Yes, good luck to everyone.
Good luck.